Hey everyone, welcome to the Normal 40 Broadcast Network. My name is Lon Stroschein, and I'm really excited to share with you a conversation that I had with Michelle Curran just this week. Michelle, most commonly known by her call sign Mace, spent 13 years in the United States Air Force as an F-16 fighter pilot. Most recently, she spent a number of years flying for the Thunderbirds as lead soloist flying F-16 number 5. We had a wonderful conversation. Nothing was scripted. We had no idea we were going to turn this into a podcast. And I thought I would cut some bits and pieces out of it and share it with you as we get ready to host some office hours where all you have to do is show up and you can talk to Michelle and I about whatever's on your mind. Give it a listen, and I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you on the next page.
This is the Normal 40 Broadcast Network.
But I went to college as a criminal justice major because I wanted to be an FBI agent.
All right.
So completely unrelated. And then I did that via an Air Force ROTC scholarship. And halfway through, we went and visited a base. I actually saw a fighter jet for the first time ever in my life. I'm like 20 years old at this point, already going to be going into the Air Force. And it was at dusk. It was F-15s, two ship. They were taking off in full afterburner. And I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I want to do that. It was like goosebumps, like vibrates your whole body. I had never seen one fly. And here I am, like already kind of on the path. All I had to do at that moment, I was like, I want to do that. Like, forget the FBI. That suddenly seems less cool. I want to do that. Was when they said, hey, who is interested in putting their name in the hat for a pilot slot? I'd be like, yes, like put my name in there. And I got one. And it was off to the races from there. It was a challenging time, but it's quite the experience to look back on because we were making history that year. I mean, the timing could not have been more interesting. Our advanced pilot number 8 had already left for our very first show of the 2020 season. So it was supposed to be in Del Rio, Texas. He's already there. We are all at work. C-17 is there. Pallets are loaded. Our suitcases are on the pallets. We are briefing our cross-country flight to go to Del Rio. And over the last few days, the news about the pandemic had just like started to ramp up more and more. And we're in this flight brief, and Thunderbird 1 looks at all of us and he's like, what do you think about this pandemic? Like, do you think this is going to be a deal? It's like, I was kind of just like writing it off as the media blowing it out of proportion, but I'm starting to think it's going to affect us. And within the next 2 hours, we're on the phone with number 8 in Del Rio, and we're like, dude, is this air show still happening? Like, they're starting to cancel stuff everywhere. Yeah. He's like, they say it's still happening. So we're like, let's just delay everything 24 hours. We will show up on Friday instead of Thursday. We'll just skip our practice. Like, that'll be not the end of the world, to just let things shake out. Within 24 hours, the air show canceled. The Air Force put into effect a stop movement so that no one could travel to TDYs, which are like the shorter trips we do that aren't deployments. So we had to figure out how to get number 8 home. And air shows just started dropping like flies. So we were there on the precipice. It's such an exciting time. It's like opening game day.
Yes.
And then it just never happened. And it went from, we're going to relax 24 hours to this show's not happening, to the next 5 shows have canceled, to go home and quarantine with your families in your house. You aren't even coming to work. It was like such a crazy, like, whoop, there goes the rug out from under the demo team.
I want to get to that, but before we do, I want to hear about your last flight as a military officer. Where were you? What was it?
How cool? So the Finney flight, we call it a Finney flight, and you always have one when you leave a squadron. It's your last flight. Your family comes out. Traditionally, they have the fire bottles and they spray you with them when you get out of the jet, and there's champagne, and it's like a celebration. So we did that for everyone that was leaving the team back in December, first week of December. But for me, I was also leaving the Air Force as a pilot in general. So not only was it my last flight in a red, white, and blue F-16, it was probably my last flight in F-16 ever.
Wow.
Which was really surreal. I wouldn't say I was sad, because I was making that choice and I was ready to take on new challenges. But it was surreal, shutting down the engine, having the canopy come up for the last time. We talked a lot about what we wanted to do for our Finney flight, and probably not super exciting, we actually just decided to go out and fly a high show. So we went out and flew a demonstration. And we did it over the training range that we'd flown on, 1,000 times at that point. And it was a really, really good flight. Everyone flew really well. And it was just fun to come back as a six ship, all six of us over the runway at Nellis. We all pitch up, we land, and like everyone's families were there. So it was cool. I have mixed feelings that everyone's like, aren't you so devastated? And I'm no, not really. Like, I don't have regrets. I'm choosing to leave because I'm excited to do other things.
This is exactly where you and I intersect. Exactly as I see it. I went back and how did I get hooked up with Mace? I'm like, let me just, before I hop on this call, let me go back and grab the traffic here. And it was, we're talking, this is a couple weeks ago. And I think you sent me a friend request, and I'm going to read what I wrote back. Great to be connected, Michelle. Looks like you're a total badass. I love it. And of course you shot back and said, hey, I think it looks to me like we're in the same boat. We're both left something we love, and we're chasing something that's found somewhere else inside of us. I'm like, yeah, that's right. That is exactly what I am. And different, I didn't walk away from F-16s, but I walked away from something I created and I love for myself. And I also did it this year. I did it February 1, and it's just, it's spectacular. It's not easy. It's not, it's not that it's not scary, but it sure as heck is fun. And what I tell everybody is it comes down to this trade. And at some point you trade what you've got for something you want. It's true of absolutely everything. And for me, I was happy with what I had, but I knew I wanted more. So I traded it. And the only way to do that is to quit. You trade it in and you go chase something else. And for me, it's been awesome because I've got to meet hundreds of people just like you. And it's fun to support, see, promote, do whatever you can do to help other people be successful.
Yeah, I think for me, most people either stay in the Air Force for 20 years as a fighter pilot, or they go to the airlines. Like, those are not 100% of people do those two things, but I would say in the 90s of percentages do those things. So people are like, what are you doing? You're jumping into being an entrepreneur as a speaker. They're like, that seems very uncertain. It seems like you could like feast or famine, which is fairly accurate. It's scary. You take away the security net of a paycheck from the government, and kind of, just knowing what's going to happen. And that's why I didn't go to the airlines, is because I could have a very good lifestyle flying for Southwest or American or Delta. And I could have a very good schedule after being there for a few years and gaining some seniority. But I felt like if I did that, I would be able to look at the next 15 years and pretty much know what's going to happen, which is probably not quite accurate, but it felt boring. It felt not satisfying. And my favorite part of being a Thunderbird, the flying was amazing, but being in that like position where you could impact people and inspire people, all of a sudden having that responsibility and that ability when you put on the blue suit was just so cool. And especially women and little girls, like the impact, I could see it happen. It was right in front of my face when, 6-year-old girl on the autograph line sees me walking up, sees the braid, realized I just got out of that jet that she just watched. And it's like her like vision of what's possible in the world just expanded. Like, what a cool position to be in, to give that to someone. And so being able to speak and, tell my story and be vulnerable and share that this wasn't just a smooth ride. It wasn't easy. I really struggled my first assignment with feeling like an imposter. I wasn't good enough to be there. And I was in over my head, and I talked about all those things in my keynote, and people are surprised usually because they only see the finished product. And giving that little peek behind the curtain, they're all of a sudden like, holy crap, that's me. I identify with all those things she's saying. I could go do something like that. And so it's a little bit different, but it's still just as rewarding as it was when I was wearing a uniform. And that's why I decided to not go fly for the airlines. The value of that was worth more to me than the security of staying in for retirement.
Every fighter pilot's got a code name, and it's all earned one way or another. What's the story? And I understand, you can tell me either version. The one you tell your your parents or the one you tell your college friends. Whichever version you think is appropriate for me, I'll take.
You clearly got read in on how call signs work. Yeah, so mine isn't like anything I can't share with people. And actually, I think one of the cool things in my keynote is that I tell the story I earned my call sign on in like great detail, because it was a dogfighting BFM flight, and it was my second flight in country when I was stationed in Japan, which is my first combat squadron, and I almost G-locked.
You know, I think if you show up with the intent of those three things, the world will pull you in. It'll show up for you and pull you to where it's like, yeah, I thought I was going to do this, but this is kind of awesome over here. And so I'm prepared for that too, just to kind of show up and follow. One of the reasons why I like to do this, let's just hop on a call and see what happens, is because I just, some really awesome things have come out of it for me and for others. And I just love showing up that way and just seeing where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been taught this lesson again and again over the last couple of months, that it's easy to kind of just write people off that send you random messages. But the people that I've actually been like, okay, like let's find a time on the calendar and gotten on the call, I'm like blown away every time. I'm like, wow, they were fun to talk to. They are like just happy to help with things. They have amazing resources. And all of a sudden, this random person that was just a message is like coordinating this keynote to this amazing organization that would be a dream to speak to. And you're just like, I can't believe this all came to fruition. All these pieces lined up to make this happen. And it just happens over and over. And I'm like, I think I'm a little bit jaded from, growing on Instagram and having a pretty big following there, because you get some weird DMs on Instagram and I just couldn't keep up with them all. And so I would get overwhelmed and tend to just like, I would read them, but I would never respond. And then I would feel bad because I didn't respond. And I'm trying to take LinkedIn as a different platform, although there's still some spam on LinkedIn for sure. But yeah, the network is incredible. The value of networking cannot be overestimated. It's such a powerful tool.
I think that's true, especially on LinkedIn. I've learned the same lesson that if you just show up curious, and that's it's kind of one of the things I've learned through LinkedIn. If you get a message and you're like, nah, you just kind of let it go by. And then you even get on a call and you're not invested in it. You'll get what you give. But if you show up curious and you show up to the call like, geez, I wonder how Mace got her call name, and just, how does that girl from Wisconsin end up, where she did? Why did she leave? I mean, I am classically curious about those things. And I think if you treat every call like that, somebody who's not a Thunderbird pilot, somebody who just randomly connects and wants to know X, Y, and Z and wants to learn, man, you just build relationships that are intimate because they're close and they're deep. You can get into a deeper conversation with someone about deep subject matter, and it's in a way that's really helpful. It's happened to me again and again and again. And so I'm reminded that, especially on LinkedIn, you kind of get what you give. And if you show up willing to give, you're actually going to get a lot. Do you ever so give this some thought. I just started doing this and it's kind of blown me away. I've got this private group. So dudes, because of my clientele, they don't, and what I post about, hey, maybe you're not happy at your job and maybe you're not feeling fulfilled, blah, blah, blah. You get my message. Guys don't, they don't like or comment because it's too vulnerable. Yeah. They're scared their boss or their buddy will see it and they'll rip them. So I created this closed group. And so you have to ask to get in. And then I'm just a dude. So I'm letting people in, I'm having conversations with people, but once you're inside, it's just inside. You got to be inside to know what's inside, and you can have a whole different healthy conversation and it's going great. So two things. One, I would invite you in if you'd want to join. There are several women in there.
I was going to ask, there are be like,
there are. And by the way, it's not like you don't know anything about pioneering for women in a mostly male zone. So you'd be right at home in there, but there are. And then, by the way, I will tell you, I'm up to like 750 people in just 6 months, which, and people, They want to be there. These are the people who are craving. These are the people who are not, yeah, if you show up, maybe I'll comment. These are, I see it, I like it, I want more of it. And if you want to hop in, great. My whole point is, one of the things I've done in that group is I have office hours where I'll put out, here's the Zoom link from 3 to 4 on Friday, whatever, join me. No agenda. I'm going to talk about what's on my mind for 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to take questions. And it's been awesome. And if you would want, I would love it if you would come in and you and I host office hours inside of that group. And I think you could get all of them, all 700 and whatever, to follow you. You know, I just take them all. I don't care. I mean, I just think, I think there's enough people who need messages like what we give, that this is, to think about it as capturing your part of the world is too small of a thought. And so I'm happy to host something like that with you. It'd just be a Q&A. You'd crush it, just like I just did to you. They'd ask the same questions I just asked you, and it'd be a way for you to make some connections with some really awesome people.
No, I'd totally like co-host kind of style something with you. And I mean, Q&A was one of my favorite things to do while I was on the team, because it's kind of fun, just like waiting for what the next thing's going to be. You're like, it's like whack-a-mole. You're like, and people would ask me the most weird questions, but while I'm on a stage with a microphone in front of tons of people. So this is easy, you know, laid back in my home office. Awesome. This has been good. I really like your branding. I think it's really cool. And I could see like that you were going through a transition similar to me, where you were like running from another job because you hated it, but where you were being pulled to this other thing because you saw the potential and fulfillment that was there. So it's a good place to be.
You absolutely nailed it. It actually annoys me when people think I hated my job. I didn't. First of all, I find it offensive because I've never said I hated my job. And second, not offensive like I'm mad. It's like, but I feel bad for my former coworkers. Yeah. Like when somebody puts on my page, oh, I didn't know you hated your job. I'm like, I didn't. I loved it. I just left it for something better. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, thanks for noticing that. I appreciate it. I would love to at some point in June, it's the easiest thing. Block an hour. Mm-hmm. I put out an invite. It will be after they've kind of had a chance to see you and I connect on whatever 10 minutes I pull out of this. And then we'll just have office hours. And I think you'll be impressed with just how many people show up and the conversations we have.
No, that's awesome. I love that idea. I think it's a force multiplier, right? Like we do these one-on-one calls to all of a sudden be in a group of people that are clearly motivated by the things you talk about and be able to network and connect with 10 people or 20 people or however many it is at once. It's a no-brainer.
Hey, everybody, that's a wrap from the Normal 40 Network. I'd like to thank Mace and her company, Upside Down Dreams, for sharing a little time with me. And we are looking forward to spending a little bit more time with you during Normal 40 office hours. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you on the next page.